Mhm.
All right, welcome everybody to Tonalism, Mystery, Memory, and Imagination, Class 5 already, if you can believe it. So I'm excited to be sharing value keys today, and it's super important, super informative, and I think it's really going to help a lot of us to understand kind of what we're doing, what colors we're choosing, and more importantly, what values we're choosing. Just a quick teaser, in the next 7 classes, which start soon, time to sign up if you would like to continue with this class. We're going to be talking about temperature and color keys in that session. So we'll take what we're learning today and expand upon it and show you how we use that to really start thinking deeper about our paintings and what we want to tell in our artwork in each piece. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over right away to our Padlet page and share the lesson really quickly. All right, so everybody sees my Padlet page here?
Yeah.
Great. All right, so the last classes have been added there. I put a little note and about the next class for anybody that's interested. Hopefully everybody, I'd love to keep this whole community together. You guys have been fantastic. And feel free to tell a friend or a family member if you'd like. I think all you have to do is click this picture. Yep, and it'll take you to my website. And from there, you can just quickly, I can even add that link into the underneath there, so it makes it easy, even more direct. There we go. All right, so for this week's class handout was value keys for painting. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, even though you guys have all gotten it in your email. And then I send the link, so if you want to print it up, if you guys are, making your little art book of information, you can do that. So this is something I've shared in the past, this little chart here, right? And we're all familiar with the light through black, kind of the value chart. This is a really quick way to visualize what I'm talking about when we're talking about value keys. A lot of times I will kind of almost imagine the keys on a piano, where the light keys are the higher, higher notes. You go all the way to the dark and it's the bass notes on the piano, or the heavier
Go ahead. I got it.
notes.
Got it.
So when we're talking about a low key, it's going to be in the darker range oftentimes. A high key in the higher key, so imagine playing on the left side of the piano is going to be a much more tinkly, high-pitched sound. On the right side of the piano is going to be, the deeper, more foreboding sounds. And then you got the mid-value range, which is a really challenging one to paint in often, because you don't have real dark darks, you don't have really light lights. A lot of times, if a painting's getting in trouble, especially if you're a plein air painter or something like that, and the painting's just getting boring on you, it's because you've accidentally dropped into the mid-value range. You've lost your lights and you've lost your darks. The truth is, most really successful paintings have the full value range in it. What I want to change about how I taught this last time and how I'm teaching it this time is that even a low key range or a high key range will still have, little touches of dark or little touches of light to add interest. But what we're looking at is the overall key, the overall feeling, or the overall value of the painting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So value keys. The key of a painting refers to its overall appearance and value, precisely the position of its foundation values on the value scale. So again, it's the foundation values. It's the overarching, when you squint your eyes at the painting that you're looking at or the reference that you're looking at, you can kind of get a sense of that. Like, is it mostly in the darker values? Is it mostly in the lighter values? A lot of times, if you know my work, I like to paint contre jour, which means looking towards the sun. I like that kind of silhouetted look. So a lot of times my painting will actually lose the mid value, and I'll have really bright brights and I'll have a lot of darks in it because I'm looking at these shadowy silhouettes, and then I'm looking towards this brightness of the sky. So a lot of times my paintings will actually lack a lot of the mid value. So it's a real high contrast painting that I do oftentimes. All right, types of value keys. High key foundation values are clustered on the light end of the value scale with a few darks and middle values as accents. Middle key foundation values are grouped in the middle of the value scale, balanced by some darks and lights. Low key foundation values are on the dark end of the value scale with some middle or lighter values as highlights. All right, so you kind of, again, if you're a foodie like I am, or like to cook, you kind of think of, okay, what's the big taste? What's the main thing I'm going for? And you may throw in a little bit of spice, or you may throw in, a little bit of something to add interest to it. So, when we are looking at a lot of these paintings, you'll be like, well, I see all the values, right? There's a light area and there's a dark area, but what is the overall feeling? What is the foundational value range of the piece? Okay. The challenge of working in value keys, value relationships. It's easy to see in if one value is lighter or darker than another, but determining the exact difference is challenging. Accurate value relationships are crucial for a successful painting. Limited value range. Working with a limited value range requires understanding foundation and secondary values. Capturing value relationships and recognizing the relationships between value and color. Today, we're going to be really focusing on the value side of it. Again, in the next session of classes, we'll be getting more into the color and temperature relationships within that. Tips for success. So if you've been a student of mine, I love doing underpaintings. Not always necessary. You saw last week, I just kind of attacked the painting and did it without an underpainting. So it's, not always necessary, but it sure does help when you're learning the values, the importance of values, or if you're unsure, you can actually do the underpainting, where you establish your design, your composition, and your value structure. Simplifying your shapes will really help. So underpainting, creating an underpainting helps focus on values, making it easier to establish accurate relationships. At the beginning, before class started, Linda Morgan O'Connor was talking about how much faster her paintings have become. That they used to take months, then weeks, and now doing them in a day or two. And would you say, Linda, that's because of your underpainting and establishing a good value structure?
Yeah, I would. I think and also the technique of the wipe away technique just establishes things so much more quickly. I can see where I'm going so much more quickly. And then, I think the class time and being more confident, and then how to proceed from there. It's kind of just feels like it's coming together. And so it's a lot faster.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm glad. That's exactly what I am hoping that you guys are getting from this class, and the power or importance of establishing your design, using values really helps to move forward quickly with confidence, because you've made a lot of the big decisions early on. All right, value contrast. Key paintings have a limited value range in contrast. To avoid a boring painting, include small areas of high contrast, like bright highlights or dark shadows, to add interest. That's going to become really important in the painting I'm hoping to do today. So intentional use of keys. Decide whether to use a key based on your painting's message. If it helps convey your intention, use it. If not, do not feel obligated, right? We do not have to copy our reference. Even when we're out plein air painting, we do not have to copy the reference. If it's not doing what you want, you can use the information, but convert it. And a lot of times the values will really help in that. Avoid even spacing. That's in everything I'm talking about, right? We avoid even spacing in our landscapes. We don't want to, the horizon line generally right in the middle. We would avoid even spacing of our values. We avoid even spacing of our temperatures. It just makes things boring. So avoid even spacing. Ensures values are unevenly spaced on the value scale to avoid a monotonous look. So I grabbed a couple just references here. This is a Russell Chatham painting. Sorry, it's so tiny, but you can see that it's very high key, right? It's very light. There's no darks, hardly even any mids. Then I grabbed a Brent Cotton, which is very much mid value painting. There's no real darks. If we scan our eye over here and look at this dark, and then back over, it is, there's just not real darks, and his lights aren't very light. If we look at the white of the paper here, and then look, but it still reads really well because it's got distinct values even within a mid-value painting. I cannot remember the name of this artist. I was hoping it'd pop into my head. But you can see this is much darker, right? There's no brights. Again, scanning our eyes to the right, left. There's nothing that even approaches the value of white. That's right, but they're all successful. They all show form. They all show big shapes and have enough contrast to be interesting. We're all going to be different. Some of us are going to gravitate toward, well, let's just go ahead and start looking at some different examples of artist work. So I went and grabbed a whole bunch of examples of work. I'm going to go ahead and start with mine really quickly, just to show you a couple examples here. So this is a seascape of Cannon Beach that I did a couple of years ago. And from what we've already just talked about, what would you say? Is this a high key? And again, we're looking at the overall sense of values, and oftentimes squinting on eyes will kind of help. Is this a high key, a mid, or a dark?
Mid.
I would say mid, leaning towards the lighter end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This one should be pretty obvious. A very misty day, which we get a lot at the Oregon coast.
High key.
High key, yeah. It doesn't have the lightest lights, right? I didn't add any white in there or anything, so it's a very consolidated value range. And this is a painting that the gallery was brave enough to put up, but didn't sell. And I kind of understand that. I do find that my very limited value range paintings, even though I really enjoy them and they're a great challenge to paint, are hard to sell. And I understand that people want a little bit of action, a little bit of punch. I like to think that the people that buy these must be very sophisticated in their taste.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if this is literally the same painting that I painted back over, but no, it's not. But this is kind of the a similar scene where and this is something I want to talk about, using the high key, mid value, and dark key or low key, is that a lot of times I will use all three in my painting, where a lot of times, especially if I'm painting like a foggy day or a lot of atmosphere, I'll have my background, right? If we can ignore these trees and this little path here, it's a very high key painting, right? Yeah. And then we come to the foreground, and I've got a very low key. Nothing in the foreground is very light. Very little of it's even in the mid values, right? It's very dark. But what that does, I hope, is create a real sense of depth, right? There's a real jump. And sometimes that can really work for us. If I had, let's say some trees that were off in the distance down here, maybe they would be in the mid values, right? So I think that's something I might, like to explore more. But a lot of times our background will be more high key. Our midground can be more in the middle values, and our foreground will either be a full value range, like if there was, some light hitting this, maybe there would be some brights, or like I did, I left it in the low key value range, just to really create a real sense of contrast. That makes sense to everybody?
Mhm.
If it were a test, what would you say? Is it a high or low key painting?
I would say that it's a full value range.
Okay,
Yeah, but I
Because,
don't see a lot of mid values there.
right, yeah, so I guess I'd say high and low. High
High, low.
contrast,
Split.
high low, yeah, it's a high contrast painting.
Mhm.
And it's also, what's the other form of contrast here is edge quality, right? Everything in the high key area is very soft. I mean, even the waves as they're coming closer are all very soft and kind of fuzzed out. You can kind of tell that's haystack rock back there. You can kind of tell there's a sky. You can kind of tell where the horizon line is. Whereas in the foreground, there's a lot more detail, a lot crisper edges. But still in a very constrained value range, very dark. All right, this one is a big one that I'm still planning to take to the gallery. When I showed the photo to the gallery, the truth is they're gonna like, well, we wish it was a little punchier actually. But I, wrote them back and said this one's very purposeful, is that I wanted this one to be, well, you guys tell me, high key, mid key, or low key?
Mid.
Mid.
Yeah, exactly. There's no dark darks in here, which is a good challenge for me. So, I really do want to bring darks into the, the shadow sides of these trunks. I'd love to bring some darks into the grasses. And I also didn't put any lights, right? Again, if we let our eye go to the white of the paper or the white of the screen, the lightest lights are not that light. Yeah, whether or not it's, going to be successful financially, that's a whole nother matter, but I felt really good about it because I really enjoyed the challenge of it. And I can always come back in and punch in some darks or throw in some more lights, if it goes out into the world and really is not successful, I can,
Well,
okay, I give up, you guys win, gallery was
what
right.
about a little more color as opposed to a change in value?
Yeah, it could be, and this might, yeah, I think it does have a little more color, especially, I need to get a good photo of it, but you can see it's up on the easel there, there's some background stuff. But yeah, that's another option, right, is to really push, like I could bring in more purples, I could, do a lot, there's a lot I could do.
Wouldn't have to be a lot. But it would give it, when they say more punch, it's kind of hard to tell just exactly what they want.
Right, yeah, exactly. But I want to paint for me as well.
Yeah.
So this was a challenge in that I actually painted it twice, one smaller, and that one's much more punchy. I added more purples into the shadows to create more contrast. But yeah, that's all things to think about. And
I see tonalism when I see that. That's what I think of as tonalism when I look at that painting.
kind of muted and
Yeah.
kind of constrained. Yeah, exactly.
limited value range.
Yeah.
Limited values, limited colors. Yeah. All right, this is a plein air painting I did a couple of years ago. What would you say this one is?
This
Low,
is
That's more of a,
Reed Valley.
I'd say it's a low key.
I would say
Low.
low
Leaning,
key
yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
low key and gorgeous.
Yeah, but you can see I added just, there's some contrast of temperature between the warms and the cools. Right, but that has nothing to do with the values, right? If I turn this into a black and white, all these brighter or warmer areas would be really quite dark. But there is a little bit of lighter area where, I guess some light's catching the top of this hill back here. But what it does is it does make this was a painting of when a couple of us went out to do of the supermoon. And, so that was the focus. So to make this, kind of the diva of it, even though it's a low key painting, the diva is the high key, right? So that is all of this is for this little point, right?
Mhm.
And here's one I was talking about doing a foreground in darks, right? More contrast, even there is some light, hitting some of the grasses and things like that. And then we get into the mid areas and they're more mid value. And then gets back towards the high key as it goes back. So I'm using keys to help to tell the eye how things are receding into space or being enveloped by atmosphere and light. All right. I think that was the last one. Oh, here's a definitely low key. I was surprised by how the reactions. This was a really quick little painting, but people seem to have really responded to it. You can see the acrylic underpainting getting a lot of texture in there and then kind of attacking it with oils. But yeah, these low key paintings can be a little trickier, right? You can, again, scanning the eye to the white, because this looks like it's really light, but it's definitely, I had a lot of value left over that I could have used. And quick couple mid to high key paintings. Another acrylic underpainting with oils over the top. And you can see I just don't have any darks, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted to make this more punchy, I definitely could have brought in some stronger shadows. I could have maybe, you know, made a light cloud or two or whatever to really give this more depth. But sometimes I really like just challenging myself and limiting my values. All right, here's a tricky one. I think I've shown you guys this one before.
Yeah.
What value range is this one?
Mid.
And, right, and I'm really happy with this painting. This one's one I almost wish I kept just because of the challenge of it. Right, it's very atmospheric, it's very sort of moody. You know, again, the painting's not for everybody. Some of you guys, you know, like a lot more colors. Some of you like more of the tonalist, you know, earth colors. Some of you like full contrast. Some of you like the higher keys. And that's great. I just want to present all these different options for you to know. All right, let's go ahead and look really quickly over at a couple of paintings here. And just, I mean, I think we can obviously say, right, low key with a little bit of light here just to kind of create some interest and contrast. All right, here's a tricky one. This is by Renato.
Mid.
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 Yeah, kind of a mid, but it definitely, he's using his darks, right? So this is a bigger value range, right? But it doesn't have white. And I don't know if he's using dark, but it feels like most of the painting exists within the mid value range. But he's using that dark contrast in the foreground, some shadows here, and then as we scroll back, there's no more darks. Right? His lightest light in the sky. As we come back forward, nothing approaches nearly that light. Except for a little bit of reflection here. A little watercolor for you. I love this artist's work. J.W. Tristram, I think he's an Australian painter. Paints these very kind of minimalistic landscapes, but pretty much a mid-value painting, right?
Yeah.
And just so quiet and beautiful to me. Yeah, I love them. And again, not for everybody, but all right, this is another painter I really like. This is actually a pretty tight and rendery for Michael Workman. A lot of times he'll obliterate whole areas. I think I've shown some of his work in the other classes. But what would you guys call this one?
Mid.
Mid.
And you guys are too good at this. This is one I showed in another class, but grabbed it just in case. Charles Warren Eaton, love his work.
I love his work.
No.
What would you say?
Low.
Low, perfect. All right, yeah.
That's ugly.
You guys are all getting A pluses today. All right, this one's a little trickier, a little more contrast.
It's mid.
Oh, squint your eyes, yeah, squint your eyes, and it's mostly mid, but he's got this little bit of punch in the ripples of the sun reflecting in the water. And little bits of darks to make the mid values show up. For those of you who are new to my class, this is an artist named Bato, B-A-T-O. Just like I'm saying across the board, an artist not for everybody, but I
Oh, I
adore-
love it. I think it's awesome.
I think there's some kind of genius in this man that I look at his work all the time, and I just love the minimalism, you know, how much he's getting with so little in his work, and he does all across the board. Here's another beautiful mid-value painting,
Mm.
and he's so good at simplifying, you know, big color areas, just barely any detail. I'll show you one of my very favorite.
I like that one better.
Than the previous one.
Yeah. The previous one, the tree, the top of that tree didn't make any sense at all to me.
Yeah, and he'll let areas completely disintegrate.
I need to know what's back there.
Inquiring minds want to know.
There you
Yes,
go. Well,
right.
then you may not like Bato's work very much, Cheryl.
Well, sometimes the one with the rock is much better. And this one is much better. That other one just wasn't.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, this one's, you know, I consider this one high key, right? High to mid.
I mean,
His brush strokes
just-
are very interesting too.
Right, yeah, he definitely has some brushwork that reminds me of oh gosh, Gustav Klimt. Almost like a decorative style where, you know, I guess these are leaves. I don't know if he cares. You know, sometimes I think he puts in marks just because they're interesting. All right, another Bato. Very high key, right?
Yeah, but that one's good. That one's all right. I just miss that tree. That tree just bothered the heck out of me.
Can you
All
see
right,
the
well,
dog
hopefully
in that
Bato
one?
doesn't-
That's beautiful.
Bato, if you're watching, Cheryl loves you. She doesn't mean it. She loves you. You're just
You
kidding.
see the doggy, Cheryl?
Pardon me?
Can you see the doggy? There's a dog in there.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
looking
how
right at you.
No, I don't see the dog, but maybe if it
almost
was,
lost.
maybe if I
Yeah.
saw it in person, I would see it
Do
better.
not know why it doesn't let me zoom in on these anymore.
hmm.
Anyways, when you get a chance to look at it, you'll find a dog. But what I really want to share with you is squint your eyes. And I mean, there's no darks at all. Right? Like this is almost the
That's the
darkest,
darkest.
and then the little dog mouth.
Yeah,
A little bit of shadow under here, but it's just amazing how much he's telling us, right? There's a figure here with, you know, the bright light silhouetting, but then a warm light reflecting back into her, a cool light coming down off the sky up here. I mean, it's just amazing how much, you know, you got a dog, you got water, you got rocks back here. I guess, I don't know, a towel or a newspaper, I don't know. Yeah, but it's just amazing with this very, very high key painting, how much Bato is able to express to us. So I'm gonna show you this, just remember this silhouetted figure being hit by light. And let's look at the next one. I hope I don't have them in order anymore. Let's jump to this one. By Brett Cotton,
oh, that's
the
fabulous.
painting of his wife.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? It's the same concept, right? It's
Yes, it is.
figure being backlit, enveloped by light. And this one is what? I mean, definitely low key.
Yeah,
Beautiful painting,
That's
beautiful.
gorgeous.
Let's go back to one more. This is one of my very favorite Bato paintings. Just because of the sheer minimalism of it. It's just, everybody, can you guys tell what it is even? At first, probably it took a little bit, right? For your eyes.
A log cabin.
And
Log
If you
cabin and
squint
this-
your eyes,
oh,
you see it clearly.
Yeah.
Mhm. I don't like it.
That's one of those psychological tests where you see first.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
I don't
Yeah,
see
I
it.
mean, yeah, it might not be the Bato painting I would run out and buy, but I just love the
It's
creativity.
interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, we know these are trees, but look at there's barely even any information. It's so wild to me.
I like the pink.
They're covered in snow.
Right, yeah, lots of fun. All right, so we looked at this Brett Cotton here. So I showed you a couple of Batos. Brett Cotton, a modern American tonalist painter. I don't know if he calls himself a tonalist or not, I've shared his work in multiple classes. I know this creek and everything. My sister used to live along it, and that's where I learned to fly fish. And so lots of neat things. So what would you guys call this one?
Mid to dark to low.
Mid to low.
Mid to low, yeah, with just these little, I mean, he's so. He really preserves these little, they're not even highlights, again, if we let our eye to the right side of the page. But it's a contrast in temperature, you know, the warms to the cools, it's a contrast in values, the lights to the darks. You know, the mids to the darks, or the even darks to the darks. And then again, using the low key in the foreground, right? The darkest darks are all right here. Then you get back here and it becomes mid key. And he never gets to a high key.
It's
Like
beautiful.
how small the people is, like to make everything like really big.
Like
and
that.
Right,
perspective.
yeah, he's so good about using these fly fishermen, or you know, hunters, or his wife, I guess, whatever, to show size, right? Without that, I wouldn't know these trees are so gigantic. Yeah, I need to be better about using figures. Got a guy on my Facebook page who comments about a lot of my paintings not having animals or figures in them. I don't know why he keeps looking at all my work, but anyways, all right, what about this one?
Low
It's getting a little
Low
tricky.
key.
Low key.
That's beautiful.
Low key.
Mm, I love that.
Who's that?
Right, this is Brent Cotton again. So this one's almost using like stage lighting, isn't it? To really direct the
Almost.
eye across. It's almost got a spotlight over here that kind of creates the silhouette of the dark that's not quite in the area of light, but almost. Right, he's got this little bit of a silhouette here, so our eye doesn't just go shooting off the scene. All the darks in the foreground, and then he puts his lighter lights in the middle, which is different than a lot of, you know, because there's no sky. And then he puts his dark mids back here. Really, he's a clever painter, this Brent Cotton guy.
Michael, is Brent Cotton is the guy who goes into the middle of the river for the plein air painting to capture the like sun reflection with like knee-high water, or sometimes like waist-high water.
I mean, I imagine there's pictures of him doing that. He's such an avid fisherman and hunter that he just, you know, I think he paints mostly in his studio. He doesn't do too much. These paintings are actually quite large a lot of the time. They'll be 4 foot, 5 foot paintings. He also paints a lot with a palette knife. And he does not do much glazing, actually. Even though a lot of his work looks like he's glazing, he's very, I don't really think he almost does none. Yeah, if he ever taught a workshop on palette knife, man, I would love to take it, because I just think he's got such good control. So this one, I'm gonna say, is like a mid, almost high key, right? Because most of the painting is about the background. Then he brings in a couple low key elements to kind of silhouette, kind of frame it, kind of lead the eye through it. But definitely much brighter or lighter than that one. Same artist. And then here's one that he's adding a lot of color. He doesn't always keep them very tonal. I think Lisa, you've used this one as a reference in the past.
Yeah.
For one of our color classes. Yeah, so he's a great all-around painter. And so I just wanted to show you guys all the different kinds of work he does.
Beautiful.
This guy, you know, I'm not going to consider Jack Vetriano a tonalist. You guys have probably seen his prints out and about. I've actually redid this painting using penguins as my models. And
I have that painting. A friend of mine got it for me with your penguins.
oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I named it the Vetriano Penguins.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it
Anyways,
right now.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking at it right now. It's in my dining room.
That's really funny. So this one's probably a full value range, but if we squint our eyes, it definitely goes more mid, because you have this huge dark area, or kind of mid value area, the background. And then mid darks with just little punches of brights to really help move the eye. You know, I'd say this is a full value range probably if I was forced to, if it was a test and I only had 3 options or 4 options. But just wanted to show you, you know, how other types of artists are using these value keys. So it's not only for tonalist painters, right? It's anybody can use it. You can use it in your still life, Cheryl. You can use it in your animal painting, Sandy. You can, it's just important to kind of figure out the key, right? This one, we squint our eyes, feels very much more high key, except for he's using the darks of the hair, shadow, to kind of create that contrast and that interest. And I like how the eye moves through it from, you know, because it's got so much light, our eye is now attracted to the darks.
Wow, that's really neat.
Very nice.
Right? Whereas, again, using Brent's, so much dark that our eye is attracted to the light. So our eye is attracted to contrast. And that's something really important to remember when you're using value and contrast to lead the eye. That a lot of times the subject, you may want to make the opposite of what the scene is, or at least push it a little bit.
Well, one interesting thing about that last one,
Mhm.
yeah, is that black line of the water, it doesn't, I mean, I would think that it would really just cause me to ignore everything else, but for some reason it does not, and I don't know why, because it's
Why did-
really dark and it's like straight across the canvas, but it just kind of helps move my eye instead of fix it.
It holds it together.
Right, yeah, that's a
Really
good point. Yeah,
interesting.
that connects all these figures. Also, it's a gradation from the light to
Uh,
the dark. And then it's not, then it's a strong line on top. So yeah, I mean, that's a good observation.
It's also a mid-range dark.
Yeah, it's not as dark as his pants that are come in front of it.
And
yeah,
then
but
their shadows also connect them.
Mhm.
So he's using the dark to lead the eye and to connect everything that he
Yeah.
wants to see.
that's fascinating to me.
And the value of the shadows and the value of the horizon are
Yeah.
almost
Uh-huh.
Is that a oil paint? It looks like a watercolor.
I'm afraid I don't know. I always assumed he paints with oils, but maybe he paints with multiple.
Well, that one looks more like an oil,
Yeah, it does.
as far as color is concerned, so.
Yeah, I actually don't know. That's a good question. All right, and then I grabbed a couple that Meg shared recently. You weren't positive this was the artist, William P. Stork.
I got on Instagram and it was a different name, but then I started to Google search, so I think that's his name.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
Beautiful.
positive, and I don't see a signature. But yeah, look at this as a really good example of a very low key painting, right?
That's very tonalist.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very tonalist, yeah.
I love it.
And then just, you know, again, we know what the painting is about. We know where we're meant to get to. And everything else kind of works as a frame around it.
Wow. I like that one too.
Right, yeah, so this one's more of a mid, you know, a lot of mid values in the sky, some darks, and then just a little pop, and I wouldn't even say it's, you know, this is very bright, it's just the only.
It's a mid.
color.
If,
It's the only pure color.
if we go back to the last one. Yeah. So on the far right, it's a little bit lighter and brighter, but the moon is to the left. I don't know.
I think that's probably the reflection on the canvas.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
And just because I can see all the little glare spots and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Mhm.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you guys know that photographing darker paintings is a real pain in the butt, especially oil
Yeah.
paintings. Because that glare all of a sudden does that, right? It just kind of ruins the illusion all of a sudden in the wrong
Yeah.
spot. All of a sudden you get these little, you know, star constellations appearing and just
Wow.
magical. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's
Love it.
lovely.
Love it.
And who's
Granville,
this?
Granville,
Who?
Redmond.
Who did that, Michael?
Granville, Granville, and last name is Redmond, Redmond.
And he was a deaf guy. He was
Yeah.
deaf and he was an actor.
It seems like that's a super limited palette, even though we're not talking about color. I mean, that just
It
seems like,
certainly is.
yeah,
3 colors.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. He probably put some red in the blue.
right.
Absolutely. All right, Russell Chatham, American tonalist who passed away a couple of years ago. I just really, really like his work. And I actually was surprised to see this one because this is actually a very high value range for him. Usually he's very, very limited in his value range. But this one still, you know, there's no high key in this painting at all, right? It's all dark to mid. And I was always just amazed how he's able to describe space and depth. And I think he is from Montana, I believe. And I think he was probably inspired a lot by either their haze or their smoke from their fires and stuff.
That's gorgeous.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it's pretty much a high key painting with this.
There's a
look.
background that's not even there. It's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
yeah.
Dissipates. Yeah, and we've all seen that, especially if there's a lot of fog or a lot of smoke in the air from fires. Yeah, just beautiful, just such he shows so much restraint in his images. I really suggest, I mean, I could have a whole day of just looking at his work. This is kind of a friend of mine. We talk on the phone from time to time and have shown together, Rachel Warner, and she was lucky enough to be Russell's pupil towards the end of his life and spent a lot of time working and traveling with him. And her work's even getting much quieter than this, but she does these really beautiful, very tonal, very kind of impressionistic brush strokes. She uses a lot more paint and a lot more texture, but really a great painter. And just thought it'd be fun to show her work next to her mentor's work.
now, is she an oil painter or watercolor?
Yeah, she's an oil painter.
Okay.
What was her last name again, please?
Warner.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish our classes were 10 hours long and we could just go look at a bunch of work by all these artists, but that's why I introduced you guys to them. So that, you know, if you're like, man, I really like Rachel's work, I really like Russell's work, you can, you know, go and do a Pinterest search or, you know, and look online.
Ooh, that's nice.
And very, very high key.
Very high.
Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful.
Lots of
Oh,
detail in that high key painting.
Mm.
Yeah, and then look at this little orange spot.
Yeah. And he has little orange spots kind of in the middle too.
Yeah, little bits, but they're very, very
Yeah.
subdued and very subtle. Yeah, J. Francis Murphy. And one more. I'm curious if it's the same artist. They seem kind of different. So,
That's gorgeous.
right, very, very low key. Just really reserving that little bit of light.
That looks
Really?
like the Columbian Gorge.
It does. You're right. I wonder if it could be. Great. Well, that's, you know, you guys can, you know, continue on and look at all these other works that we've shared with each other. And really kind of look through them and say, you know, again, low key, you know, with more mids in this. He's using the mids on the tops of the grasses and in the clouds, and then just very reserved in his use of high key or even high chroma. Right, a lot of color, the only pure colors in this yellow and a
And
little bit of oranges.
Who's this one?
We're not positive. William P.
Oh, okay.
Orwick is what Meg put down. We could do a
Right.
reverse image search, but not positive. So anyways, I just thought those were some that Meg shared, I think this week, so I thought I could use them for this. So you can really see how varied and how much can be done in, you know, just a mid value, low, you know, mid key, low key, and, you know, a high key. You can do so much within that. So I'm hoping, and then again, also using a low key, low key, mid key, and high key. How you can use the, you know, all three in your paintings, or you can consolidate and just do all high key or all low key. So it's really a great storytelling element, a great way to help the viewer instantly kind of go, okay, this one's a little moodier, or it's nighttime, or it's, you know, winter, or whatever else. So it's a great fun challenge. I was thinking I would do a demo with a high key, you know, mid key, low key, but I already did that in class. So today I was thinking I would do a little more of a finished painting using one of the crazy palettes from last week, and talk more about that versus doing the 3 demos. But I will grab during the break, I'll grab one that I did from a previous class and talk about it briefly. All right, let's go ahead and take a little break, stretch our legs, and I will get up to the canvas. Would you guys like to critique work, look at work first, or do a demo first?
Demo.
Demo.
All right. Great. I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. So about a little after 10:30 my time. And
I found 2 of the picture of Brent Cotton, and yeah, he's the guy studying, like he goes like waist high water just to like do the painting and stuff.
Or he
yeah.
stands in the water while he's painting.
Yeah. I shared the 2 links in the chat. So one is like knee high, and another I found is waist high, but I couldn't find the other one. But yeah, he goes like extreme to do the plein air.
Yeah.
He just goes.
Oh.
Yeah, and he paints from his fishing boat that he built, and yeah, no, he's the cool guy. Does lots of fun stuff. All right, I'm gonna stop recording and I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. And you guys can spend some time looking at any of these artists, or grabbing your coffee, or letting the dog out. I'm watching a dog this week, so I'm gonna go let her out.